Hello my precious everyone, welcome back to Wow Mal. Today I'm going to be giving you some advice on how to create a character that is unique. This video was made with Dungeons & Dragons specifically in mind, so I will make references to it, but it can honestly work with basically any tabletop roleplay system and can even be applied to different sorts of media like books or video game characters. Sometimes, especially after creating many characters in the past, it can be difficult to come up with a character idea that feels fresh and new. To help with that, I've compiled a list of 6 ways to spice up your characters and make them feel a little new. These methods usually involve small points of inspiration or ways to tweak an already existing character to make them unique without having to change their entire personality. Speaking of personality, I also wanted to mention that by unique, I don't mean RoarXD, I'm so quirky type of unique. Playing these types of characters is totally fine and I honestly love them, but I do want to make it known that random does not equal unique. Sorry, chaotic neutrals. With that, let's get into the list. Point 1. Give them a unique appearance. One of the simplest ways I can think of to spice up a character without actually changing too much is to give them a unique physical trait. This might seem like it won't affect too much initially, but remember, there is a reason your character looks the way that they do. I quite like the idea of characters who are an outlier in appearance for their race, like a really tall halfling or a really short Goliath. This short Goliath might be 6 foot and be alienated and ridiculed by his clan and thus have like a really big Napoleon complex despite the fact that he's still taller than most of the party. Moreover, you could give a human blue skin or a unicorn horn, hinting that maybe they were touched by the Fae in some way. One of my tiefling characters has a permanently broken horn. There could be a gnome with a really long neck, an elf with split-dyed hair that's half red and half purple, a half-orc with 7 fingers. Giving them an odd trait and then explaining how they became that way and how it affects them can lead down some really interesting routes. Or don't explain it at all. Not everyone knows why they look the way that they do. Keep in mind, if you do want to give them something particularly abnormal, make sure it's okay with your DM first and will fit into their world. Point number 2, change their age. I might be wrong about this, but from what I've seen in 4 campaigns and many one-shots I've participated in, most adventurers fall around the crisp age of 17 to their early 30s. It makes sense this is their physical prime and when they're most likely to leave home to explore their own realm life. But characters who fall outside of this age bubble automatically have a certain sort of zest. I once played a character named Myr, who I will mention frequently in this video. She was actually the tiefling I mentioned earlier. Myr was a tiefling bard, and she was also 13 years old. Playing a bard that was a child automatically added an interesting layer to things. Not only did the whole bard seduction trope go completely out the window, but she didn't drink and viewed the world a lot more innocently. While other bards might use flowery words and wit to win people over to their side and help their party, Myr didn't really understand the intricacies of adult social dynamics and was a lot more likely to just be blunt. She wound up using intimidation a lot of the time, and whenever she persuaded someone rather than being sneaky about it, she basically just asked for what she wanted and then used the puppy dog eyes. And when she didn't get what she wanted, she would wind up whining a lot. This proved to be surprisingly effective. Another example is that my friend Bianca had a character named Atlas who was in his late 30s. Most parties seem to have a mom or dad of the group, but Atlas was literally a dad. This gave him a protective aspect and also a somewhat hardened, wizened look at the world that the members of the otherwise pretty naive party didn't have. In another campaign, there's a character named Asmin, who's actually an old man. I'm pretty sure he has grandchildren, if not great-grandchildren. He's reached the point where he's unpredictable and really stubborn in whatever he does. It's absolutely beautiful. A character's age will change their perspective on life and how other people treat them, so keep that in mind. Point number 3. Keep the parents alive. The age-old trope of the dead parents. Actually, it's so common that one of my old parties was known as the Party of Orphans. Nothing is wrong with that, as it's the easiest way to explain why your character is out adventuring and not happy at home with their family. But changing the story can help keep character motivation and backstory fresh. Again, Myr's mother died in childbirth, so I did kind of use the cop-out there, but her father was still alive. He feared that he wouldn't be able to raise Myr properly on his own, so he gave her up to an orphanage. Abandonment can cause just as much angst as dead parents, so if that's something you're looking to have for your character, you could certainly go that route. I've also had other characters who adventured because they were in search of their missing parents. They wanted to find a cure or something to help their parents, or wanted to run away from home. Keeping your character's parents alive not only opens the door to unique and complicated reasoning for adventuring, but it also provides an opportunity for the party to down the road meet your character's family, and that is always interesting. Number 4, some special intra-party relationships. In my opinion, this is one of the best ways to make your character more unique without actually changing anything about the character themselves. I recommend people do this anyways, so when the campaign starts, it's not just a group of strangers, but they have something a little more holding them together. Using this method, you can uncover new sides of your character that you might not otherwise ever have an opportunity to roleplay out. For example, not to bring her up again, but Myr's story didn't end at the orphanage. I was lucky enough to have my older sister Sammy be in the campaign with me. She played an elf paladin named Cedar, and Cedar wound up adopting Myr. That unveiled a whole new side to my character. She could have been really hardened and not really trusted any adults, but now not only was she able to be a bit more of a happy-go-lucky child like other children, I also got to play this really cool dynamic with my sister of being someone who is being actively cared for by another party member, and I could completely rely on her character. I had all these new layers rather than just being an angsty, barely teenager. In another campaign, my character Sylvestis, who I made a whole video about, maybe you should go check that out. She wound up in the same party as a man she was betrothed to. That instantly made being her a unique experience because I could play out a slow burn, long-term romance, and I was very excited about that. Creating situations like this within the party can instantly make your character feel more unique. Not because of anything specific about the character themselves, but because you're putting them in situations you might not have been able to ever experience otherwise. Just make sure if you do this route that not only is the other party member you want to be sort of related to down with it, but make sure your whole group is okay with it. Witnessing a romance, even if they're not directly involved, could potentially make some party members uncomfortable. So just make sure all your cards are on the table before you go any sort of route like that. Point number 5, play against type. While mechanically speaking, this might not be the best move, I think enjoying the character you create is much more important than stuff like that. And playing against type can be super enjoyable. By against type, I don't just mean against the stats that certain races can give you a boost in, thus making it more typical for you to play a class that kind of benefits from those stats. I also just mean the inherent stereotypes that kind of go along with whatever class or race you pick, such as bards being flamboyant and wizards being nerdy, half-orcs being tough, and elves being haughty, things like that. You could be an infernal tiefling who's an Oath of Devotion paladin dedicated to the forces of good. You can be a strong, burly gnome fighter, a half-orc who's an arcane master, a wizard, and an Asmar assassin rogue, and no, not an edgy fallen Asmar. A regular Azamar. Why they went against the norm can open up many unique storytelling opportunities, but for some people, playing opposite can actually feel overdone in its own way. So for that, I have another suggestion. 6, playing against nothing and everything, basically doing what you want in whatever order you want. Perhaps I'll have to eat my words about random not equaling unique just a little bit. Picking a combination that is completely out of left field can be a wild experience. For example, a halfling cleric of Coralon, who is the creator of the elves. Why Coralon? Maybe the halfling witnessed the deity's magic firsthand and was inspired to worship him. Maybe this is a form of rebellion against his family and his community. Maybe he really wants to be an elf. If you're playing a cleric or a paladin, or even just a character who you're interested in having religion be an aspect of who they are, a way to spice things up is actually to roll on the tables they give you and randomly pick a deity. Of course, you can discard ones you don't think would fit your character, but trying to come up with ways for seemingly random deity to be important to your character can go down very, very interesting routes. Of course, you'll have to make sure it's okay with your DM, but picking really new, fresh races is a very easy way to make a basic character idea feel completely new. My sister, her first character was a shifter that turned into a bear. I was once a centaur. My other sister was a vampire. Some races have to be adjusted to make sure that they're balanced for a player character, but picking a truly uncommon race is sure to be a fresh experience. Again, just make sure that it's okay with your DM if you go for a monster race or just a very uncommon race. I hope this advice was useful to you guys to help you step outside your comfort zone and try a fresh character. But just remember, there is nothing wrong with being a character that's not wholly unique. Sometimes the human fighter, the gnome wizard, the half-orc barbarian with low intelligence is perfect just the way they are. What's most important is that you enjoy being them. If you're interested in cosplay, Dungeons & Dragons, and other sort of similarly dorky activities, perhaps consider subscribing to me. Have a beautiful day, my precious everyone, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!